Welcome to the Remind Podcast, the podcast where you get inside the real estate entrepreneur's mind. My name is Harrison Smith, and I'm joined today by Faina Shapiro. How are you doing, Faina?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
It's great to have you. Met you down at a Brian Brown networking event. We had a lot of things in common and really hit it off. So, looking forward to being able to share your story and talk a little more.
Me too.
Let's kick it off with, for those people who may not know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're currently doing in real estate?
Oh, wow. That's like such a broad question. I'll try to keep my answer short. So I am a realtor. I am the number one agent at my office at Berkshire Hathaway last year, the year before that. And I've actually only been a realtor for 3 years, going on four, in the process of getting my brokerage license. I just literally submitted the application last week. So just waiting to get the permission to apply. So I'm excited for that and to
Awesome.
continue growing my career, hopefully. And interestingly enough, I was also the number one sales agent fourth quarter in all of Berkshire Hathaway in Massachusetts in 2022, which that wasn't even one of my goals, but now it is, and I can check mark it off. So I'm excited about that. Um, I had 3 closings just this week alone. I have 2 listings coming up next month. So I would say when I say I'm busy, I feel like I'm pretty busy. I teach real estate workshops throughout Massachusetts as well. In fact, I taught 2 this week alone, and I teach them through different communities in Massachusetts, sometimes on Zoom, sometimes in person. It really just depends on the town and what they prefer. So I would say that's kind of what I do in real estate. Oh, and I do own rentals myself, so I manage a few rentals for myself. I used to manage for others as well, but now just strictly for myself because a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah. A little busy to take on some other properties, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. We often find that the people we're talking to don't start in real estate. They end up in real estate. It seems like real estate becomes the destination. It's where we all end up. What brought you into real estate? What eventually led you into this business?
So actually I went to pharmacy medical school. So I would say kind of like the complete opposite. One deals with numbers, the other deals with science. But interestingly enough, I've always been obsessed with just home renovations. I would say I got that from my dad, who's always been incredibly handy, he was smart enough, I will say, which I think is very important to know as an individual, whether you're a realtor or, just own homes or properties. He was smart enough to know what things to do himself and when to hire an expert.
Mm,
So anytime he did hire an expert or he would do projects, I would always beg and plead to kind of assist him or learn, and he would always allow me, or at least 99% of the time. So I kind of got the bug from that, always being interested. And I decided I wasn't going to pursue my degree anymore. My husband had a really demanding job, and I convinced him to pool our resources and buy some rentals. So that's really how I got started in the real estate bug. And because of my knowledge in regards to things I've learned from, home ownership through my dad, I was able to apply those to my rentals, and it really fueled my passion for investing and then real estate to become a realtor myself.
gotcha. You get into real estate through, obviously grew up around it, so had some experience there. Got some rentals and realized the power of owning real estate, and then became an agent. Um, a lot of people just kind of stop and they don't take that next step to become an agent. Maybe they stop and just manage properties, or they just invest because there's a access to capital or a strong W-2. What caused you to think, well, maybe I should go help other people and become an agent too?
So I actually always knew I was going to become an agent. I've had a lot of
Hmm.
conversations with my husband about this, and it just took me a little longer because I knew when I was going to become an agent, I wanted to kind of ensure that I devoted or had as much time to devote to my clients as possible, as much as they needed. I always um, say that it's a 24/7 job. I think honestly, real estate isn't 9 to 5. It generally actually doesn't happen 9 to 5,
Right.
right? So you need to ensure you're available. Otherwise, I think you're just doing a disservice to your clients, to be quite honest. So I've kind of held off to a certain point because I do have kids. So now they're much older, high school, so in their teens. So I'm able to really devote that time to my clients. My husband is in a position where he can help with the activities, and he's definitely my support system. I joke, that I have a team at work and a team at home.
Hmm.
So that allows me to really be there for my clients the way that I feel they deserve somebody to be there, because this is, home ownership. Buying a home is I would say, the most important investment an individual can make. And even if you're not buying as an investment, as most of my clients actually aren't, I always want to treat it like an investment for them, because ultimately I feel like, well, they will have to sell it, and most likely they're selling it to be able to afford their next home, or afford their future path. So whether it's downsizing, retirement home, vacation home, it will be a means to some sort of investment. And so that's how I like to treat it. And I think it's incredibly important to, make sure I'm available 24/7 whenever my clients need me.
Yeah. Well, because clients, they get that they get that thought, at night, or that
Oh,
panic
yeah.
moment when they're under contract and the reality of what they're about to do hits, and they just need somebody to talk to.
Oh, 100%. And the first thing I say is, with me, I want you to call me if you have that moment. I don't care what time it is. We need to talk through your concern, your stress. That's incredibly important to me, because, when it comes to a purchase like this, regardless of what anyone's budget is, whether it's 100,000 or $2 million, that is their budget for them, right? That 100,000 might as well be a $2 million budget for that individual if that's all
Yeah.
their budget allows them to buy, right? So it's an important concern, and I really want to make sure I'm there to address any questions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. It's a big deal to everybody, regardless of price point. That's likely
Oh,
the biggest transaction they've ever done, the most amount of money they've ever spent in one place. And whether it's 200,000, 2 million, 20 million, like, it is a huge deal to everybody.
huge. 100%. Yeah. And, I think it's a huge honor that people decide to work with me, because I feel I understand how, as an investor, as someone who buys homes myself regularly, I feel like I definitely have that understanding of the importance of that role as a result.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So you mentioned pulling everything together with the husband and going and buying the rental properties. Um, was that a plan that when you said that he was like, "Yeah, let's do that," or was it like, "Wait a second, why are we doing this?" And was there any coaxing needed, or was he on board with that plan from day one?
Well, so we initially turned our primary residence into a rental when we bought our second home, right? Instead of
Okay.
us deciding to sell it, we were able to luckily afford to keep it and turn it into rental. So because of like my ability to manage that and be very successful, I think that kind of persuaded him, at least I knew what I was doing. Or to some extent. I
Yeah.
did take the real estate classes in the very beginning. So when I decided I wanted to buy rentals, I did work with an agent. But more importantly, I educated myself, to ensure that I didn't just trust an agent, that I felt comfortable enough myself to make certain decisions, because I did feel like my husband was trusting me and myself only to make these financial decisions on our behalf. So I took it really seriously. I took the classes 10 years before I became an agent, in preparation for becoming a landlord, in preparation for owning properties. I've got a team to support me in making decisions. Um, he definitely put all the trust in me, but I took it to heart and, made sure that I did my due diligence, right?
Hmm. No, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So, um, you mentioned managing properties. You said you manage properties for other people. Um, what about the management made you realize that maybe I just want to do that for myself? Because we do see a lot of agents that do both. They do property management, they're real estate agents. You know, why stop and realize maybe I don't want to do that?
Well, for me, it was just more of a time constraint, because it I have 7 properties, and between the 7, I have 9 tenants. So just with that alone, I easily have something I deal with once a month. And I have great tenants, great properties, but realistically, there's something that pops up. Even if it's a simple question, it's still time consuming. So ultimately, I am a top producing agent. I do about 30 transactions a year now consistently. You know, like I said, just this month I closed 5 deals. So it's just I'm really busy. I'm, kind of performing at the peak in the real estate part of it as an agent. I'm, doing a lot of rentals on my own. I have my classes that I teach, and I teach a lot of classes for, I teach about 20 to 30 classes during certain seasons. So it's just kind of deciding I don't feel comfortable taking on, managing for others if I can't fully devote myself in the way I feel like the level of professionalism should be handled. So that's why I decided to back down there because that wasn't really my passion. My passion is really to help people buy their future homes, help them understand the financial aspect and consequences and just the realities of it, and making sure I'm guiding them in the right path, right? And so
Yeah.
that's why I kind of stepped away from that to really focus on classes where I can guide and being a realtor.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. When you look at the return on your time, clearly what you're doing on the real estate side is working very well. It'd be hard to justify property management doing better than that. So it's a good balance there. But
Uh,
along those
it's
same
not
lines,
as
so
rewarding sometimes either, to be
yeah,
honest.
well, yeah, that is true. That is a very tough business for anybody that's been in it. You'll understand that comment. But for you, so you got into real estate and you had success pretty quickly. Um, what do you look at as what's helped you stand out? What's been important to getting you going, especially early on when so many new agents struggle for a while?
So I think at least for me, I think I basically made an effort, and that was an honest conversation I had with my husband. Because I couldn't do it without, his support with the family so I could focus on real estate. And I think for me, that's why it took me a while to decide I'm ready because I wanted to make sure that when I was ready, I can be a yes agent, right? So I can say whatever my clients need. And to this day, I'm the same way. Whatever my clients need, whenever they need me to be there, I will make it happen, right? So I feel like that mentality and that I would say maybe hustle was kind of what allowed me to be successful so quickly. I think the first year I closed about 15 deals, which is a lot for a
It is.
first agent, especially because I didn't necessarily have a background, I didn't come from another brokerage or I didn't have a family of real estate agents that were supporting me. So, um, I think I really made the initiative to just say yes, to learn any opportunity I could have to do an open house for my brokerage, another agent. I would say yes with a smile on, right?
Yep.
With all my marketing ready. Whether it was to learn or to do, I made sure I did it.
Gotcha. Yeah, you've got to dive in, take action, learn as you go, and it sounds like for you a big differentiator there too was being available, being able to provide that high level of service to your clients because obviously the best business anybody can get in real estate is referral business, and if you do a really good job for people, they're likely to tell other people.
Yeah, and actually that brings a really good point up is that, my goal was to just be the best version of myself that, I would expect on the other end. And part selfishly, maybe like you said, in a way, to get those reviews to, and I was able to actually do that. I have a lot of reviews. I just got like 5 reviews this week alone for my deals. And I think that's part of my mentality of going above and beyond, exceeding expectations, doing more. Is I honestly don't ask for I mean, I do, but most of the time I don't have to ask. They're so happy to do a review for me, and that to me means the world. Like more than anything else is having that kind of relationship with my clients.
Yep. Yeah, that's key because it does. It creates other opportunities because you've taken such good care of them. And then one of the things you and I spent quite a bit of time talking about down in Massachusetts that night was the radio show. So you took on the task of a radio show.
Well,
Can
yeah.
you can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like, and also why do the radio show? If if things are working, you're busy, you've got things going on, why take on the radio show?
Yeah, so in 2022, for that year, I did a radio show on 101.3 FM. So it was an hour segment, and every single segment I had a new guest on. So someone in the real estate realm. So whether it's a contractor, a radon expert, a septic expert, an architect, it varied throughout. It wasn't necessarily realtor or lender. I did have those people, but I really tried to vary, the degree of experts I had on. I learned so much, and it was kind of a great opportunity because I was providing information. I was learning information because I really had to prepare for. I mean, I'm sure I really had to prepare for these experts, and in return, it was very time consuming, which ultimately is why I decided, just to stop after the year. But I learned so much value for my clients that I serve, for myself, that I definitely appreciate that opportunity. But again, I just decided, glad I did it, but I
Mhm.
needed to take a break.
Yeah, no, and we found it was a really good experience. What was nice about it, and you were talking about this a little bit, is it kind of forced us to put ourselves in our clients' seat a little bit to think about what would they want to hear, what would they want to know, and really helped us design the show in a way where we could actually bring value through some entertainment, some banter, but really more about the educational piece of it, which is here's all the various people involved in real estate. Here's all the things that you may need to know. We did market updates and state of the market shows and brought in vendors, and it was a lot of fun in that regard. But as you mentioned, it is a lot of work, and it is very much a long game in that sense because people are hearing you over and over again. It takes time to build up that trust, but business comes from it. It's a great marketing platform, but it is a lot of work, albeit it was fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it helps to build my brand in the sense of education, but it didn't necessarily bring me clients. And so, again,
Yep.
ultimately, it's important to kind of not spread yourself too thin and utilize, your time wisely as an agent. So, and I met so many people. It was a really great experience for that year. But, I think ultimately, it was a great time to move on after a year.
Yep. Yeah, no, we did the exact same thing most of 2022. Then it was like, all right, we've going to do something a little bit different now. So
Yeah.
you mentioned your business and how things fit in. When you look at your business today, obviously top agent at Berkshire Hathaway, um, what what are your major sources of business? What are you working on in terms of buyers versus sellers? What does your business look like?
Yeah, so for the past 3 years, I was actually but like the first year I was more buyers, and then the past 2 to 3, I was actually pretty much half and half, which is also,
Okay.
I think, rare. Usually one agent steers one way more to the other, but
Yep.
I was really, I think it was like 16, 14, like it was really
Hmm.
almost half and half. This year, um, I have about 9 deals so far, and they've almost all been listings.
Hmm.
Just like 2 closings and a few listings coming on. So it's kind of turning a little towards more towards listings, but honestly, you never know. I feel like the year's still just kind of starting. I mean, I know we're almost halfway there, but I had it like last year, my December, I had like 10 deals alone, so you never know what you're
Yeah.
gonna get, right? So I don't really know yet, but so far it's been different where it's definitely more listings, which is good, I guess, because there's not a lot of inventory, but
You're right.
I do really enjoy working with both. And I think that relationship, that ability to work with both actually helps me to be able to educate and guide both sides better as well. So it's not that I'm personally striving to work with one over the other. It's just kind of the ebbs and flow of it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think there's value in having some balance there because you're continuing to see both sides of the transaction, staying in touch with it. It also
Yeah.
gives you some variety. It's you're getting to get out and show some homes, but then you're not always having to show homes. You're negotiating more contracts on the listing side. So I think that that balance is key. I know agents that specify one or the other, and I think that's great if that works for them. But I do think there's some value in having some balance and being able to see both sides.
Yeah, I like both for different reasons. So, I'll take it where I can get it.
All right, so let's dive a little deeper into that topic. Talk a little bit more about your business and your success. So, when you look back at your time in real estate, is there any particular thing you point to as being the most important factor to your success? Is it a habit, a trait, a mindset, a mentor? What is that one thing you point at saying that made all the difference?
um, this may sound like maybe a generic answer, but I really hold it to heart. It's just making sure I go above and beyond. So kind of doing what I think is the right thing to do, right? Kind of fighting for my client. Just part of it is just you have to hustle because no
Yep.
one, I think some agents think like, okay, got my license. I'm just going to be like getting one person after the other wanting to list or sell with me or buy. And, I think ultimately you realize, okay, that's not at all the case. For every one of me, there's like another 200, right?
Hmm.
So if not more. So I think it's just constantly making that effort, trying to improve myself and giving my clients no reason to want to look elsewhere. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and I've heard that from several people now. The belief is this is not a sales business; it's a service business. People want a great experience. They want a stress-free experience. They want to work with somebody they know, like, and trust, and that really comes down to how well you take care of them. So I think it's a great answer, and I think if nothing else, it's a reminder to people that ultimately real estate, it's a service business. The only thing you really can do is take good care of clients, and that will bring you more clients in return.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you say that because my biggest pet peeve when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm great at sales. I want to be a real estate agent." I actually get bothered by that because I don't think that's what I do. I don't
Yep,
sell anyone on a home. In fact, I feel like that's doing a disservice if that's your mentality. That home has to fit the needs of that
right.
buyer, right? And in that sense, you help them find the home that fits their needs. You're not selling that home to them. You're not persuading them to buy a home, right? Which I think sales is. It's a different kind of mentality in sales than it is or should be, I think, in real estate. And so I want to say, um, I definitely don't view it as sales. I feel like I listen to my clients, my buyers tell me what their goals are when it comes to real
Yep.
estate. And then I help them accomplish those goals by purchasing a home that checks off those things that they're trying to accomplish. Um, but I don't view it as sales, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, and I love that answer because
Mhm.
when I hear people say that, I say the same thing. I go, "Oh, yeah? Well, how many homes have you sold to people that they didn't want or need versus how many times have you been able to help
Yeah.
somebody find the home that fit what they were looking for?" Because sales will be selling somebody something, whether they need it or not. Service is actually helping them find what they really do need. And that's what agents do. We're problem solvers. We help them find what they need. But no, you're not convincing somebody to buy a home that isn't the right fit for them.
Yeah, no, I like that you said service. I think that's exactly how, to be a good agent, I think you need to understand you're providing a service. And I think that's a good mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and I think the agents that we see really thrive, like yourself, are the ones that understand that, you're there to take care of people. You're not trying to convince them to do anything they weren't gonna do. It's to take care of them, make sure they've got a good experience, and they get
Yeah,
what they need.
and exactly, and for sales, I'm not trying to convince anyone to sell their house,
Right.
I'm trying to help them understand if it's the right time. If not, I'm there to guide them until they are ready in regards to certain renovations they can do or maintenance and things like that, but by no means, and I think that's why people do generally like me or want to work with me is they see that that's in my nature. I'm not trying to sell anyone on anything. I ultimately want what's best for them. And if I'm lucky enough that they choose to work with me when they're ready, um, great.
Yeah, and I think people can sense when they're being sold versus when they're being serviced because the way you talk to them, the words you use, your mannerisms, the way you react are all different when you're genuinely trying to help them versus just trying to get them to a closing table.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, good. So let's look at the other side of the pendulum here and look at so what's been the most difficult lesson that you've learned along the way?
Um, well, maybe just how much hustle it is to be a real estate agent. I think it's important. I think that's why I've been successful. Is like I don't just do one thing. I do like a few different things in order to build my business. Um, you know, I do Zillow, I'll be honest. That has helped me. I teach my classes. That has helped me get business. I do open houses. I work with sellers. I work with buyers. I'm smart enough because I learned from my dad, learn it's smart to understand what works, what doesn't, or where to
Yep.
apply your efforts, where to hire somebody. So, I'm smart enough to be able to focus on the things I love and enjoy in real estate. And then I hire an assistant in regards to things that I'm not necessarily needed or I don't, the value of me not being there is okay. And I can delegate to someone else. Right. So, but I think the biggest lesson definitely is, there's a lot of work. Not that I didn't think there'd be a lot of work, but it's just you're doing a little bit of everything. And, I've had so many transactions in the past 3 years, and not one of them has been the same.
Yeah.
Every family is different, every home is different, every circumstance for why somebody is buying and selling is different. I've dealt with some sticky situations in regards to client situations. And it's just, I also, one thing that's surprising is how much you are kind of like their psychologist, or
Hmm.
you're sometimes the person that they may take things out on, and that's okay, right? Um, but it's ever changing, especially the past 3 years. I mean, I started before COVID, like 6 months before COVID, basically. And then, wow, COVID happened. So, I would definitely say a reality is you're constantly changing, evolving. And the sooner you as an agent understand that's your role, and should be your strength, I think the better off you'll be.
Yeah, no, and I love that you brought that up because I think a lot of people see HGTV and the way that realtors kind of get glamorized and you get your license, the phone rings, everybody wants to work with you. You throw these big lavish parties and you know everybody. And what they didn't show you is the people that are on those shows. They didn't show you the 10 years before that they were grinding it out to get to that point and that
Well,
success was not overnight.
yeah, and honestly, even when you do everything right as an agent, you can still have, someone else will still work with someone else because,
Hmm.
maybe they want to work with someone more local because they think that will be better. And,
Yep.
that's not always the case, but people have certain opinions about certain
Yep.
things, and, part of it is you do a lot of work as an agent, and sometimes like it can take years or it can just fall through. And I think a good lesson too, like, when I became an agent, I was fortunate enough that like my husband, he has a good job. We have health insurance. So I was really able to focus on my clients and guide them in the way I felt was needed, right? But I definitely can see, I've seen it, in around me where there's agents who don't really understand how hard it is even to get like your first sale as a new agent. And then, it can be hard to advise when, you're not able to pay your bills. So I think it's a good lesson too, is if you want to be an agent, you should understand it could take some time before you're making money and be prepared for that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And the other point you brought up, I thought that's worth mentioning is you mentioned having an assistant. And I think in some cases, agents get hung up on the fact that, well, it's got to be me. I've got to do it. I'm the only one that can do it. Nobody does it like me. But at the same time, there are certain things that you do that in reality probably aren't the best thing for you to be doing. Or in reality, there's probably somebody who actually is better at it than you. Um, Talk a little bit about what that was like realizing you could hand certain things over to somebody and it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because I'm a type A personality. So I do like to do things a certain way. So you just have to pick who you choose to help you, right? And part of it too is, I do have an assistant, not full time, just someone have when I need it to fill in certain roles for me. But I explain to them, what I expect, and they know how I operate. And so I feel comfortable. And at the end of the day, there's usually a reason, obviously, for me to have that person help me. Right. And usually it's because I feel that there's more value in me being somewhere else at that time. Right, like,
Yep.
for example, I had somebody show a few properties on my behalf, um, but I also knew that couple wasn't ready to buy for really another year. But, there were no open houses, they needed to see them, to educate them, there was definitely importance for them to have that shown. So, I felt that was important for me to be somewhere else where I'm truly needed as opposed to there, and that was the right opportunity. So, it definitely took me some time and there's an expense. So I think you have to also get to a certain level where you
Hmm.
feel comfortable spending that money on yourself because I definitely do think in our industry, um, people want to go from like A to Z rather quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful it happened to me, like where I grew quickly, but there's definitely some times where I'm like, oh, I wish it almost didn't happen that quickly because now I have this constant need to continue that success, right?
Hmm.
Or
Yep.
I've had like pressure for myself to do that. But for me, it's really important to have that quality. I'm just like, I feel like I would hurt myself if I didn't provide the quality I expect for myself. So I really want to make sure, even if I'm growing, that I'm attaining that quality I expect for myself, for my clients that I serve. And there's no way for me to do that if I don't have help. And I think the individual who understands that will be better off because if I didn't understand that, then the only person that would be hurting would be my clients and myself, obviously, but I wouldn't want that to happen. So, ultimately, it's just a point where you get to a point in real estate where you're getting referrals, people want to work with you. It becomes a little easier, but then you're getting more business. You have to make sure your level of quality stays the same or better, right? So, in
Right.
order for that to happen for myself, I knew I needed help or that wouldn't happen. And I couldn't let that happen. That would be like the worst thing in the world to me. So,
No, that's a good point because really leverage should be there to help you do really one of two things. It should help, or really both, I guess. It should help you be able to do more business, but also continue to do more business at the same level you were doing before. So it's allowing you the time to truly focus on the things that matter, not go to the beach because you're going to just disappear for the afternoon, but be able to use that time to continue to level up the business, do more, continue to do it well by getting the other stuff that kind of nags and pulls you away out of the way. And oftentimes we see people view that help as overhead or a cost when they don't leverage it that way. It's called leverage for a reason.
yeah.
When they don't leverage it that way, they just put somebody in there so they can take time off.
Yeah. And honestly, like my husband makes fun of me a bit because he jokes like my biggest fear in life is like I'll have a bad review. And he's kind of like he's right. Like, and I think in a way it helps me to be successful because I'm so scared of like that one person not liking me or
Yeah.
something. Um, but and I think that fuels me to constantly do better, do the best that I can for the people I serve. But again, I want to make sure, that if I'm growing, I'm doing it at the expectations that I would expect for myself. To be able to really be the best I can be for my clients. If
Yep.
I can't do that, then I don't want to grow. I'm fine going back. But if I have the ability to
Hmm.
grow and still serve the clients the way that I feel they deserve to be served with the help of an assistant, then definitely that's what I'm going to do. Right.
Yep. No, it makes a lot of sense. All right. So last question before we let you go. What is the one piece of advice you wish you had known when you got started?
Hmm. That's actually a good question. I thought I had an answer, but now it's somehow I'm just poofed. I don't know. I guess I maybe said it earlier, but I guess the one piece of advice I wish I had known is just the amount of hustle you should be prepared to have in this industry. Um, because I think you really need to be in the mindset of being a yes person for your clients to serve them appropriately. Because our industry, I mean, just the past 2 years, especially where, everything had, 20 plus offers. You had to see the house yesterday or you missed it, right?
Yep.
There's hustle, there's a commitment involved in that. And I was prepared for that, but not even, but I feel like it's still even more than what I
Yep.
expected. But I think part of it was even more because of COVID. But luckily, I had a game plan and I was okay. I survived. I managed the hustle, but I definitely think there are a lot of agents who aren't really prepared for it. And if you don't do it, you won't I don't think you'll personally be that successful. And, I'm sure in our industry there's a lot of agents, but not a lot of them, make a decent living or are
Right.
successful financially, right? And if you're working so like I work a lot and I love it. I'm super grateful. And but there's a lot of people that work a lot and don't do a lot, don't make a lot. And you want to make sure you're using your time wisely.
Mm.
Otherwise, otherwise it is a lot of work, right? So like I'm just last weekend, I was moving stuff for my clients who had, hard time moving. And I'm constantly doing things like you don't think a realtor will do, but I
Yeah.
do it all, right?
Yeah. So sometimes it's got to get done, so you do it.
Yeah, sometimes it has to get done. Sometimes, like, I'm super privileged to work with a lot of great clients, but some of them don't have the money that it takes to get your home ready. So I do whatever I can to help those, people. So, you have to be physically and mentally prepared to kind of do it all. It's not, like you said, it's not what you see on HGTV where, you just hire people to do all these things. The house is poof magical.
Yeah.
And you get a million offers, right? So, gotta be prepared. Be
Yeah. No. And that,
always be ready.
yeah. No. And that it's good feedback because I do think sometimes the industry for a long time was all about setting your schedule and maintaining your time blocks and all this stuff. And I think the last couple of years have taught us that we can't be so rigid and inflexible because if you are, you miss out. And really, you got to serve the clients. And sometimes the clients need you right now. Sometimes they don't actually need you right now, but sometimes they really do need you right now. And you've got to be prepared to handle that.
Yeah, and be prepared for rejection. I choke all the time, like for every like accepted offer or good news. I get like two pieces of bad news.
Right.
So I may seem successful, but really you should see all the stuff I didn't get that year. So
Right.
but that's what I mean. There's a lot of hustle involved. And even though, I've had a great year, I've had a few great years. There's a lot of stuff I lost out on or deals I didn't get. And so there's a lot of behind the scenes too that, often you don't see, but you have to be prepared for to do the work. It's not like an industry. I feel like oftentimes you're like, oh, I want to be an agent. It's a great part-time job. Um, sure, you might get lucky, you might make a few deals the first couple years, but
Yep.
I don't think that's something to rely on, right?
Yep. This is a hard business to do part time because, again, it goes back to the clients. There's showings that have to happen. There's things that have to happen. And if you're at another job and you're unavailable, like it is a little bit difficult to service those clients. Can agents do it part time? Absolutely. And a lot of us got started that way, but you did that as the mechanism to get in, to get experience and get in, but not thinking that you could do that long term.
Yeah, and when I work with buyers, my job is not to get an offer accepted. My job is to get the offer that they want accepted, that
Mm,
is fair to them, right? That's being their advocate. That's protecting their priorities, right? And so, any agent can get an offer potentially accepted, especially if it's, being the highest offer or waiving mortgages, or waiving appraisal or waiving financing, right? Any agent can do that, so, but I don't want to be that agent. I want to be that agent that gets things accepted for my buyers that's in their best interest. And, I had a stellar year, past stellar 2 couple years, and I really ever waived those things for my clients. And that's what I'm really proud of, right? Is I always made sure my interest aligned with, again, the people I served, not just to be able to say, I got 30 transactions accepted. That's maybe why, like I joke, I got equally as many offers not accepted, but I don't think any of us have any regrets about those not accepted offers. So
No.
that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the process, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you to learn more about you, talk about Massachusetts real estate, what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, so I'll give you my phone number because it's super easy as opposed to my super long email. 617-820-0600. And I challenge you because I know if you text me or call me, I'll respond within 30 minutes.
Wow.
So
That's
that's
impressive.
my promise. Yeah, I'm really annoying like that.
Well, that's excellent. So thanks so much for coming on. Congratulations again on all your success. Congratulations on the broker's license. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.